All right. Good afternoon, everybody. It is Monday, July 22nd. It's sometime around 3 p.m., maybe a little bit later. We are live on Facebook, and then this recording will be up later on. But this is Coffee with the Coaches, our weekly little podcast about business mindset and everything entrepreneurship. My name is Christopher Holmquist. I am joined, as always, by Peter Valancourt. We are just two kind of real estate dudes who own multiple businesses, have been in the business a long time, and just like to talk, right?
Yep.
Pretty
Well
much sums
said.
it up. All right. All right. So last week we had this amazing conversation about the four cornerstones of conversational excellence. You remember that?
Yes.
Right. So they were the worst time to think about what you're saying is when you're saying it, right? I feel that 1000% curiosity is the fuel for great conversations. That was number two. People do things for their own reasons, not yours. That was number three. And four, the person asking the questions controls the conversation. So out of those kind of four cornerstones of conversational excellence, anything, resonate with you?
Well, of course, the first one of, let's not practice on our clients, or let's not try and figure out the best thing to say when we're in a live fire event. But also the curiosity, coming from curiosity and great questions. Phil
Yeah.
Jones is really a master at diving into this and breaking this apart. I feel that there's so much value and so much to be learned um, about how to build business relationships just through that concept right there.
Right. Yeah. And mine was along the same lines. I mean, the first one is the one that jumped out at me the most, right? Because I just feel that there are so many times in my life and so many times in, everything else is situations where 3 hours later, later, a week later, you're like, oh my God, I should have said, right, whatever it was or whatever retort you might have had, you never
Yep.
think right then. So that one resonated with me for sure. The person asking the questions controls the conversation is also a favorite one of mine, just because I need to remember that, those of us that have a little bit of a propensity to gab a little bit too much, um, you know, we need to ask more questions and listen a bit more. So I think that
Yep.
that's my big takeaway. So, all right. So today we're going to take it a step further. So those were the four cornerstones of conversational excellence, right? So just kind of four concepts for you to think about as you're framing your business conversations, right? We all know what conversations we're going to have, what are upcoming. Now let's go a little bit deeper, and we're going to go into the three critical ingredients for influential conversations. So first of all, we want to make sure that we know ahead of time what we're going to say, right? That we're not, just winging it at the time. We know that we want to come from curiosity, i.e., ask great questions. We know that people do things for their own reasons, so we have to make sure that our questions tackle that, right?
Yes.
And and we need to ask enough questions so that we're kind of in control of this. Um, so let's break down the conversation into three critical parts. It's going to be the opening, kind of the middle, and then the end, right?
Yep.
And so these three critical ingredients for influential conversations, the first one is rejection-free openings. So if I'm gonna open a conversation with you, um, and I want to sell your $2 million house, right? If I walk up to you and be like, "Sup, Peter? How's that for an opening in a conversation?"
Right. I think the nicest way to put that is a missed opportunity.
A missed opportunity, right? So, if we're going to open a conversation, and I'm really breaking down these words, right? Because words matter, and this is why we're
Oh,
having this
tremendously.
conversation,
Yes.
right? We want a rejection-free opening, right? I want not to be rejected by the person that I'm sitting across the table from. And so we're going to give you magic words or questions that are going to help or give you the best chance at not getting rejected, when you're opening up a conversation, a business conversation that's important. Number two is the perspective changers. You and I love talking about this, right? I mean, because that's the heat of the battle. We're in this conversation, and there are times when we need to take the other person and make sure that they see it from our side or from a different angle, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And
It's so important for both of us, both people in the conversation, our ability to see things from their perspective, but also opening their mind to different takes on it as well.
wow, you just yeah, that was really important because you're right. I was just thinking about, from how are we changing their perspective, but you're absolutely right. We can use this as a tool then to change our own perspective, or at least give ourselves that, that gift of looking at something objectively. Perhaps we need to change our perspective or not.
Right. It comes from like that assumption, making assumptions on things without all the facts.
Right. Going back to the Stoic questioning method, right, where we need to question our beliefs and question what's happening. And then the third ingredient for an influential conversation is these assumptive frames, right? And these are these kind of closing statements that are going to bring the person along with you in the direction you want them. Is that a good way to kind of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Um, we're making assumptions obviously for our benefit and hoping that they join us where we want them to be. So we want to not be rejected when we start the conversation. We want to make sure that we allow for a lot of perspective changing and viewing during the conversation. And we want to finish the conversation, bringing them to where we want to be.
Yep.
That all sounds really pretty cool. And something that's probably worth doing, right?
Absolutely. That's how we earn business.
Right. Yeah, and I did this with my team this morning. We were having this conversation, and I said that was exactly right. Conversations are one thing in our business. So give it the attention that it deserves and practice it and work on it and tweak it. I want to share a quote. I think that this is a great quote. Getting defensive when someone questions your beliefs likely suggests that you haven't bought them or don't fully understand them yourself. When you've intentionally when you have intentionally curated your beliefs, you are confident and trust in their design. The need to defend them dissipates, and so does the desire to force them on others, right? The reason I love this quote in this whole context is exactly what my business partner Kelly said this morning on the call. When I read that quote to the team, she was like, "Oh my God, I have the perfect example of that in action." I said, "Well, what was it?" She goes, "Last week, I was in this listing appointment, and I so believe in what it is that I am telling people, the data that I have, the experience that I have, right? I mean, you want to talk about somebody who has curated her beliefs so that there's no doubt that she knows what she knows. And that allows her to work on the subtle nuances of her presentation and pivot and come up with a new way of saying something or presenting something that ultimately is going to, make her business this much better."
Yes. Yeah. I think that's like a two prong. Like we're seeing the tip of the iceberg with somebody like Kelly, who is working to get that incremental amount better because it's built on this um, result of doing the work. Like we can't go into that meeting confident in our abilities and all that if we haven't done the work. We have to do the work to get to that point. And when you do, that's your credibility, your track record, your success, your ability to process those results, and then offer the solution. And if it's not something that that person is willing to take advantage of, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And everything you said right there, especially the part about just doing the work. And that's a
Mm,
central theme that we just keep coming back to as well. There are no shortcuts, teaching our son that now, as well, and our daughter and anybody else that will listen to us that, God knows, I've been trying to find the shortcut for 56 years now. And I'll let you know if I do find it, but I haven't found it yet.
yeah.
And trust me, I mean, I made it my full-time job to try to find the shortcut. Um, but eventually the work has to come in, right? We know it, you know it, I know it. We need the experience, we need the reps, we need to fail, we need to succeed. Even Tiger Woods, arguably the greatest golfer of all time, right? He can't rely just on, his memory or what he used to do, right? He's not getting the reps right now, and it shows every time he tees it up.
Yeah, it's so true. And I loved hearing him talk about Rory McIlroy's recent, however you want to phrase it, his coming up a little short at the U.S. Open,
Yeah,
and how people who at that high level have failed more than most people can even fathom to get to that point. And that all of that is lost on most of us humans because we only see the the celebrations of those huge wins.
yeah, yep. That's it. Um, all right, let's get into the magic words. I mean, this is like the moment everybody's been waiting for, or at least in my mind, this is the moment that everybody's been waiting for. The audience of thousands who's watching this right now, going, "Oh my God, we're finally getting to the magic words." But um, look, these are not magic words. These are words that a brilliant person by the name of Phil M. Jones is strung together to form questions that he did a lot of research on and thoroughly vetted out in terms of, their efficacy in in achieving what they are meant to achieve. And if you've ever heard him speak in person, he's incredibly energetic and engaging. He really knows his stuff, and he is worth like reading his books, and you'll get something out of it, something really good out of it. So, let's start with rejection-free openings. I'm going to read kind of what he says about this, right? Possibly the hardest part of any conversation is getting it started in the right way so that you can get to the real conversation you hope to have. Developing word sequences that reduce friction and allow you to dance yourself into more critical conversations without the option of being immediately shut down creates both increased confidence and increased competence in conversation. You want to spend the next half hour just dissecting that paragraph?
Yeah, I know.
Right? This is what I hear here, is again, developing word sequences that reduce friction, blah, blah, blah. Words matter.
Yeah,
And the order of the words matter.
yeah. The questions, how we frame these questions, so important.
Right. So, okay, one of the most common reasons I hear from people as to why they fail to introduce their idea, product, or service to others is the fact that they are fearful of the rejection they might receive. That's why he came up with rejection-free, openings. So let's dive into, there's three of them. And then I'm going to give you the framework for kind of like all of these conversations. Okay. So the first one is, I'm not sure it's for you, but. Why do you think this is a rejection-free opening?
We've already sort of said it's okay that if it's not for you, we've already granted permission that listen, this may be a non-starter. Let me throw this out there and just see it. We've kind of offered ourselves a lifeline just in the way we frame the question.
Yeah. And he says it. He says, we're subconsciously telling that person's brain there's no pressure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's for you, but hey, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Not forcing it on you. So, and again, as I'm doing these, I want people to think also about like the opposites, right? Because then it becomes so glaringly obvious why these are so good, right? Because like if you think about what's the opposite of that, if I go, Peter, like you've got to do this because it is the thing, right?
Right. And what do most people do
Yeah.
when
What's your
yeah,
immediate reaction?
it's
Whoa,
like, hey, yeah,
hey, hey, don't tell me what's for me,
right.
right? And it's funny because this is like reverse psychology. If I
Yeah,
come to you and say, Peter, you need this,
yeah,
you need to pay me 7%. What are you going to say?
yeah. No, no thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Peter, I'm not sure if it's for you, but well, I've been working with this on this strategy with other sellers, who are paying 7% because that allows us to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
Was that
tell
a
me
little
more.
bit? Yeah, do I have a chance now with you,
Yeah,
maybe?
now you right. Now you've created an opening where you've got maybe a more receptive mind to hear
Yeah.
you out.
Um, I want to see here. Just trying to say if they give you examples here, stuff like that, like in leadership, right? I'm not sure if it's for you, but there's an opening coming up in a new division, and I thought you might be a great fit, right? Again, there you're leaving the opening. You're not forcing it on them. You're not putting them in an uncomfortable position. You're allowing them the option, right? And you're right. Because you did it automatically, I think, without even thinking about it in that last example. You said, tell me more,
Yeah,
right? And I think that that's a natural reaction when people hear, I'm not sure if this is for you, but
right.
tell me
It's
more.
almost like, hey, I'm on your side with this thing. Let's look at
Right.
it open mind together.
Yeah. I like the example he gives in life as well, right? Real estate, I mean, we've already talked about a billion of them. But in life here, I'm not sure if it's for you, but I'm planning on changing up my diet and wondered if you would consider joining me. I'm not sure if it's for you, but I was hoping we could go out for a drink together sometime. Um, this is we always say it, this is not all just about business, right? This is about navigating life, and even if these are very, intentional words and everything else, I think that they can be used in our personal lives with the greatest of efficacy as well,
Hmm.
right?
Relationships.
Relationships, they're not easy. I was just telling you about, my wife and I and our vacation, and there are days when I am not this sunshiny disposition all the time. Hard to believe, I know. But you've got to work on these things together. All right, so those are the magic words for rejection-free openings. That's the first one. I'm not sure it's for you, but okay. Number two, how open-minded would you be? Blank, 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 dot, dot, dot. How open-minded would you be to giving this a chance? So what's the difference between if I say, Peter, give this a chance?
Yeah.
Or how open-minded would you be to giving this a chance?
I think many of us like to think of ourselves as open-minded. So it's almost you're almost like
Yes.
issuing a challenge a little bit like,
Yes.
are you really open-minded?
Yes. Because what happens if you don't go along with what I want? Then you are,
Close-minded.
you want to be closed-minded?
No.
No. So yeah, you're right. It's a little bit of a trick, right? It's kind of it's also, the same way. I mean, I don't want to say trick because that's not really the right word. I mean, we're using these because we want to get into the conversation,
Yeah.
but it is a little bit of reverse psychology if we're being honest, right? I mean, even though I'm not sure it's for you, but it's almost like I have this little secret over here. And I'm
Right.
not really sure, if I'm going to let you in yet. And that's going to make you be like, hey, I want that, right? So, um, anything else about that one? How open-minded would you be?
Yeah, I almost feel like that one is almost your, in a way, asking permission um, of someone to sort of open their mind. It's a nice way of introducing that sort of, hey, can I ask you to be open minded about something? It's another way to phrase it, but in the form of a question. How open minded would you be? But you're almost asking permission or setting the expectation that what you're about to deliver next is going to be maybe something that's they hadn't thought of or out of the
Yeah.
box.
I was also thinking it's a good way to introduce something that might be on the riskier side.
Right, unorthodox.
Yeah. It's like, hey, how open-minded would you be to like giving this long shot a try? You know what I mean? I almost see it in that light. So here it says conversational challenge. Choose someone else in the room and make a bold ask of them towards something that could help you, that they could help you with in your own life. Using the preface, how open-minded would you be to, loaning me $3,000? I guess that would be one. So yeah, I mean, again, we can use these in our personal lives. as well as, work lives. And then the third rejection-free opening that Phil M. Jones comes up with is, who do you, and then dot, dot, dot. You know, who do you know that is considering moving to the area? Who do you know that is thinking of moving to the suburbs? Who do you know that be interested in working for us, right? It's just kind of one of those. It says here, success in every area of life depends in many ways not on who you know, but instead on what you do with who you know, right? Referrals, word of mouth, introductions to new people are critical to the growth. Instead of asking if someone needs a realtor, think of the circumstances somebody may find themselves in where an experienced professional could be of value. Scenarios that spring to mind are situations like moving to the realtor's area, moving to a new area, considering home improvements. So yeah, if you think about a bunch of questions around the who do you know thing, it's a great way to open up. Again, there's no fear of rejection there because you're not making it about, I'm not making it about you, I'm making it about who
Right.
you know.
Well, I think this is the evolution of, when we all first start off in business, we learn about referrals and how important relationships are, and we're trained or coached to ask the question, do you know anybody who's looking to buy or sell or invest in real estate today? And when you ask somebody that binary choice kind of question, it's always no. You're putting someone on the spot. Like, you know somebody? Like, no, no, I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like you put them in that defensive. And this is such a great way to ask that question, but just phrased in a different way. Like, who do you know that we should be talking to? Who do you know that we could be helping today? That
Yeah.
that old kind of, it's just a way to ask it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, he leaves it at those three. I mean, I don't know that you need more than that. I think that, he goes on and in this section of the book says that the framework for starting conversations is opening fact question, right? So just the opening would be something like this. So a polite opening. Hi, it's Krister from KW. Peter, you recently filled out a form to get more information. That's the fact. What specifically would you like to know? That's the question. So opening fact question, right? And while this seems very, very, very basic, I think that there's a lot of people, myself included, who will sometimes forget the opening or will jump straight to the question or will, jump right to the fact without saying, hello, how are you, right? I mean, these are in the book for a reason.
Yep.
So keep that, framework in mind. Oh, sorry about that. Gee. And keep that framework in mind, right? So now we move on to the perspective changers. So now we're in the conversation. We have gotten in, we've said, I'm not sure it's for you, but blah, blah, blah. We're in the conversation. And now we need to kind of change somebody's perspective. Something goes on. And how do we do that? Phil says sometimes all you're aiming to do in a conversation is invite the other person to see things from a slightly different point of view. These magic words empower you to shift their vantage point and add more curiosity to your talk track, letting them see things from an alternative reality and put you back in control of the conversation. All right, let's go through a few of these. And he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. And I think you guys are catching on to the, like how these are working, right? Uh, and that's the other thing I love about it is the simplicity of these, right? It's great. So perspective changers. The first one is, what do you understand? What do you understand about us, our business, and the way we do things differently? What do you understand about how things really work here? I like this question because of its directness. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's kind of just challenging somebody right off the bat.
Yeah. And I think it's also kind of a considerate question. Like, you're saying to the person, like, help me understand what your what your knowledge level of this, so we can talk sort of on an equal footing. I don't know what you know, so I don't want to be presumptuous. fill me in.
Yeah.
What do you know about this?
Right. We've talked about Socratic method where, we're aiming to get to the truth, right? In order to know the truth, we have to obviously, we need to know where they're coming from. What's their basis, right? We can't change somebody's perspective until we know what their perspective is.
Right.
That might have been exactly what you said, so I was just reiterating that. But all right. The next one is, what is your experience? What is your experience with selling homes, right?
Yeah.
It's a great one to ask a prospective client if we're staying on the real estate track or whatever your business is, what's your experience with what we're about to undertake together?
Yeah.
Again,
Such an
this,
important question.
yeah, and again, it allows you to hear what their experience is. It allows you then the reverse door opens to express what your experience is.
Right. You're
And
also going to kind of bring to the surface any biases they might have if they've had a really great experience, or even more important, if they've had a really poor experience somewhere.
yeah,
So important for us to know that we know, a, not to duplicate that experience, but where it might have gone wrong for them.
yeah. Um, I just want to go back to the what do you understand? Because I was just reading some of his examples here, this one kind of hit a little bit differently when he says, what do you understand about the benefits of working with a professional buyer's agent? Like, it's such a great question right there,
Yeah.
right? Um, what do you understand about the benefits of working with a professional buyer's agent? What have you just done? You've just labeled
Yeah.
yourself a
Yeah.
professional buyer's
You've
agent.
just created your identity in this relationship that you are the professional.
Right.
Um,
And that there are a bunch of benefits that go along with it. So now, if I don't understand what the benefits are, I'm probably going to ask.
yep.
And if I do know, well, then I'm on the right track anyway, right? So I just didn't kind of think about it in that light. I mean, it's like you can set yourself up for success. What do you understand about working with the number one listing agent in the entire state of New Jersey? I mean, like, you can take it to umpteenth lengths, but that's a cool. I don't know. I just like that's really cool. All right.
Yep.
Third one, perspective changers. How certain are you? Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh. My house is going to sell for 800,000, not 700,000 like you said. Well, Peter, let me ask you, how certain are you that your house would sell for 800,000?
Yeah.
And then we can get into the fact finding, right? Well, I'm pretty certain. Great. What evidence are you basing that off of?
Right. And meeting that kind of statement that we know with every fiber of our being is wrong. They're just wrong on the number, they're wrong on the concept. It's human nature to be like, oh, you are way off. But being able to slow it down, meet that statement with a question, like a thought-provoking question, it keeps the temperature down because you're not there to fight or protect. You're there to earn their business.
It's not win-lose, man.
Right.
It's win-win, right? I
Right.
mean, like we all got to get there together.
Yeah.
And you're right. Instead of saying like, what are you, a friggin' idiot? You just say, how certain are you about that? All right, then we can talk about it. Here's another one. When was the last time? God, I can think of a few times a buyer's agent might use that when mom and dad are doing the house hunting with your client, right? Pops, when was the last time you actually bought a home? Oh, it was 1956. I understand. That's very important. Let me change your view here. Let me change your perspective a little bit. Um, but when was the last time is a good one, right?
Yeah.
Um, Um, what else? I mean, how certain are you? We already did that, right? When was the last time? To change perspective, what is often required is the introduction and acceptance of a problem, and then, better still, full clarity and an understanding of the scale of that problem. When was the last time? Such a question allows the other person to instantly launch into a story explaining that moment. Often without encouragement, they add color and contrast to the scenario, giving you a situation to influence against. Be patient, letting them expand on their story. Once they reach the end of their explanation, you can easily take this conversation to the next level with two further curiosity-fueled questions. How often and for how long? Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this one will help you get clarity. In leadership, we can say, when was the last time this happened? In sales, when was the last time you experienced, blah, blah, blah. In life, when was the last time you felt this way?
Mm,
So the heart-to-heart challenge, this one is hard. Think of someone who really means something to you. Then find a safe moment to ask a when was the last time you felt question and be prepared to listen to their answer. And I mean really listen. Be brave. Keep them expanding on their answer and also ask clarifying questions. You could very easily find something huge that you could likely influence for the better. Yeah, again, he brings up something I would never have thought of, and this time it's on the personal side, right? Yeah, when was the last time you felt safe? When was the last time,
mm.
you really felt, I don't know, passionate about something? I think it's a great invitation question, like he says, to let somebody get something off their chest, maybe.
Yeah, you're giving them permission to really dive into something that's a heavy concept.
Yeah. Wow. Few more. How important is it? Could it be possible? How important is it? Yeah, I mean, now we're guiding them. These are all questions that are guiding people, right? Like, how important is it? How important is it to you, Peter, to get out of the house in 3 months, like you said?
Mm, yep,
How important is it for you to get 750,000 when the house is only worth 650,000, right? And then you could launch right into the next one. Could it be possible, Peter, that if we price it at 550 like I want to instead of 600 like you want to, that we actually might get a higher price, right? Could it be possible?
yeah. How open-minded would you be to review some of these statistics with me just to show you how our pricing strategy has been effective in the past?
Yep. And the other ones are, how would you feel if? And the last two, I think, are really worth talking a little bit about. The first one is just imagine. It's more of a statement.
Yeah,
And the last one is if blank, then blank. Right? So those two. So just imagine is one of those where, we're trying to change perspectives, right? You and I
yep.
use this one all the time with people when we coach them and everything else, right? Just imagine, Peter, if you're at a point in your business where you're working 20 hours a week and you're making $400,000 a year.
Yeah,
How would that make you feel?
yeah. It also you're inviting someone to stop and think and picture things in their mind.
Yeah.
Very effective.
Yep. And then the if then. Um, how important is it? I just want to get to some of these examples. How would you feel if, just imagine. Yeah, how would you feel if gets people to experience their future, right? And people like to do that. Just imagine. Just imagine how things will be in 6 months' time once you have implemented this. Just imagine what your boss would say if you missed this opportunity. Just imagine the look on your kid's face when they see you achieve this. It really puts something in front of them, right? I mean, you're right. It makes them build that visual picture in their brain. And that's much more effective than just words alone or, just thinking about consequences or whatever, right?
Yep.
Um, if then questions, if you decide to give this a try, then I promise you won't be disappointed. If you put this in your stores, then I'm certain your customers will like it. If you give me a chance in the role, then I am confident you will thank me later. By creating these if-then sandwiches, you can position guaranteed outcomes that are very difficult not to believe. If you are prepared to give this a try, then I am certain you will see the results as early as the first day you try it. It's interesting because we have been preconditioned as kids to understand this if then, right? If you don't eat all your dinner, Peter, then you're not going to get any dessert. If you don't study hard at school, Peter, then you're not going to get into the college or job you were hoping for. Look what happened to you. If you don't tidy your room, Peter, then you're going to be grounded for the weekend. When they made conditional statements like these to you, chances are that you believe them. These statements hold power over our beliefs and actions. And as a consequence, creating these scenarios of the perfect if-then, right, statements, you have a high probability of success because we're already preconditioned to accept the fact that there's a high probability that what you're saying is true.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how is that on a note to end on?
Awesome.
Programming from our childhood.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh.
Don't know how I did that. We need some real technical help on this podcast. But for those of you that were watching, both of you, thank you. And we appreciate it. We're going to talk more on the last one. We didn't even get to the last one, which was the assumptive frames. We'll pick up the conversation next week. Sound good?
Yeah, there's so much more to break down this whole
Yeah.
Phil
Yeah,
Jones
we'll
stuff.
circle around for a few weeks on kind
Yeah.
of this topic because it is so massive. But just kind of, and then summarize it, like, here you go. Here's the framework. Go out and slay it. So,
Yep.
all right, my friend,
Practice it
we'll
with
talk.
your peers.
Yeah, that's it. Go out. This is what we talked about this morning, and we keep delaying this, but we talked about this on our team meeting this morning. Is you don't want to practice when you're sitting down at the listing table, right? Or on an important business meeting. So practice in person, go out, use these concepts when you're at Starbucks, when you're at the grocery store, when you're hanging out with your friends, right? I mean, there's so many opportunities to practice this without people even know that you're practicing.
Yep.
So there we go. Appreciate you.
Awesome.
And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Chris. Great
Thanks.
conversation.
Bye.